are some people that would have you believe that somehow the ingenuity that organizes and masterminds our survival is somehow some inherent something that we got from Africa as though it sprung out of nowhere. But I submit to you, that's not quite true. I want to submit to you that regardless of how dark it seems occasionally and has seemed, we have never been in this journey alone. That there has been in this journey with us an invisible God that somehow or another sustained us. But without that God, we aren't likely to go any further. I was thinking about this when I was preparing to come to Abyssinia, and I said, I noticed how the struggle today had moved so far from our spiritual root. I don't hear much. I hear a lot of talk about right and wrong, but I don't hear much mention of God anymore. And I watch as a generation of young people that got to have the right ideas, and I think are doing the right thing, but I remind you that right ain't always righteous. And I've noticed that the right doesn't fare well if God's not somewhere involved. You know, we know we were right for the last 400 years. Being right doesn't guarantee anything, but being on God's side and God in the mix does. We could not survive without God. We need to reload spiritually. We need to get ourselves grounded and understand the well springs of our strength has been the fact that we were grounded in God. And we need to remember ourselves and remember who we are and whose we are. Then turn our attention to these problems, and I bet you these problems will fall. Elijah, a man of God who had seen God do some marvelous things. He had watched the hand of God govern the nation and through him reveal God's self to his people. And after Elijah's greatest victory, after he called the people up on Mount Horeb, you remember, gathered Jezebel's prophets, challenged them to a contest, and defeated them before everybody, his greatest victory. He took flight into the wilderness for fear of an angry woman. After he killed Jezebel's prophets, Jezebel made up in her mind that she was going to destroy him. Elijah heard about it and got so wrapped up. Make this point and I'm gonna leave you alone. So wrapped up in what Jezebel could do to him, he forgot what God could do for him. He became so absorbed with fear. And that's the trouble with some of us. We get to the point where we're so absorbed and so saturated that we don't even have the power to pray anymore. Part of that's legitimate. If you look in the text, I don't have time to go through it all, but if you look in the text, Elijah said, I've gotten to the point now where I've had enough. Read the text. He said, I'm finished, I've had enough. You ever been to the point where you just had enough? Oh, but you couldn't take anymore. Well, you've cried enough. You've begged enough. You've struggled enough. You've been in pain enough. You've been beaten enough. You've been broke enough. You've been sick enough. Oh, I can't take anymore. Oh, he said, I'm going to make my bed right out here in the wilderness. I want you to take my life. know some of y'all right now thinking we done had enough. I don't know about you, but I have. I had enough about begging people to assign me value that I was supposed to have been born with. Enough! I had enough of asking people, please don't shoot my children when they're unarmed in the street. I had enough of trying to be rational with people who insist on being irrational with me. I had enough of trying to convince people that somehow I'm worthy of what is mine by virtue of being born and made in the image of God. Enough of having to act like you doing me a favor because you provide a service for which I'm paid. Enough! I've had enough. Yes, I've even had enough of begging God to help me convince you just to do what's right. Had enough. Had enough of acting like I'm a guest living in my own country. Had enough of acting like you do me a favor because you recognize my humanity and somehow I owe you something. Had enough. I'm going to quit before they run me out of New York.